PROMARE is an action anime movie produced by Studio Trigger, the studio that was behind shows like Gurren Lagann, Kill la Kill, Little Witch Academia, and even the intro sequence to OKKO. I'm not sure many people know about that. Special thanks to Shout Factory for sending me a review copy of PROMARE's Collector's Edition box set. In this video, I'll just be reviewing the PROMARE movie, since I haven't reviewed it before now. But soon after this, I'll also put out a video just discussing this cool box set release, so please check that out. There's a link to where you can buy the set for yourself in the description. Also, if you're interested in anime, I've done videos about the movie Weathering with You, the latest movie from the director of Your Name. I reviewed the movie itself and its recent super cool collector's edition release, so please watch those videos too if you're interested. Now let's review PROMARE. Let's start with the story. The story takes place in a distant future, where a mysterious group of humans, known as the Burnish, have randomly earned strong and dangerous fire-based powers. After the Burnish cause a nearly apocalyptic event known as the Great World Blaze, they are ridiculed by society and every one of them is considered a terrorist, whether or not they actually have violent intentions. A group of firefighters full of colorful characters, known as Burning Rescue, is formed to fight back against the Burnish terrorists and save anyone who gets trapped in their arson attacks, by using giant elaborate mech suits, because, you know, it's an action anime. Despite working for the anti-terrorist force, the newly recruited and hilariously over-the-top Gallo is more interested in learning the motivations of the Burnish, and doing his best to help save them from the discrimination they face. Gallo eventually meets Leo, the mysterious and handsome leader of the Burnish, who gives Gallo a whole new perspective. Over the course of the film, Gallo, Leo, and the other members of Burning Rescue must work together to save the world, and more specifically the Burnish people, from a new threat. The story from the start is pretty typical, but it gets really crazier and crazier as it goes along, as new elements and twists are introduced constantly. It never gets confusing or cluttered, but it can feel like it moves on to different plot lines too quickly. I mean, it just gets so over-the-top sci-fi by the end. I loved it. That's what I'm used to from the studio, that's what I expected with this movie, but I could see the jarring shifts and totally out there lore being something that might turn people away. The movie's main twist, its true villain reveal, it's extremely predictable the moment that you're introduced to that true villain character. They reveal it quickly, so maybe they just weren't trying to hide it to begin with. But the way they try to give Gallo a relationship with this villain to make the twists like have an emotional impact, it kind of just didn't really land like at all. I feel like it almost would have worked better if they just didn't even try to have like a twist related to that. They could have just had the villain be the villain the whole time. But I can say that the villain's evil plan and the way of executing the plan is definitely not predictable because it's so insanely ridiculous. So I appreciate that. The morals and themes of the story are extremely obvious. That's not really bad because it's a great message, but it's really not subtle in any way at all. The problem comes from the fact that the story becomes so wrapped up in its own action sci-fi absurdity by the end, that the theme kind of vanishes entirely. It goes from being very directly like, we must stop this guy because he hates the Burnish for no good reason, discrimination is bad, to, we must fight in our giant flaming robot mechs, like, you know, there's a big disconnect between the theme and the climax and everything of the movie by the end. Like, they kind of just dropped that whole theme by the end because it just becomes such a direct action movie. The intro sequence and dialogue of the movie easily introduce you to the film's world without too much exposition. The setup is simple and easy to understand, so it just throws you right into some amazing action, which is something I greatly appreciate. I really don't like when stories try to spend too much time building up their world and have a lot of really slow and blatantly obvious dialogue, so this movie just gets you right into it. I did find it pretty jarring that the movie starts with an amazing, fast-paced and stylish action sequence, but then there isn't much direct action again until like the final 45 minutes of the movie. Which, you know, the end is all action, but it goes from starting with action to tons of plot progression, and then back to action for the entirety of the movie. I could have gone for a little bit more action in between just so it felt a little more consistent. And again, the movie does jump around quite a bit, so there's some things that it introduces and then never goes back on at all. Like there's one cute and pretty scene where there's some romance developing between Gallo and Ina, one of the other Burning Rescue members, but it quickly cuts away to a more important plot, and then Gallo and Ina never really interact in that way at all for the rest of the movie. It just seemed odd for them to set up that character dynamic and then they never go back to it ever again in a more direct way. I mean, probably because Leo ends up taking Ina's place and that sort of thing, but spoilers. Actually, Gallo and Leo end up having a dynamic that I somehow successfully did not have spoiled at all. Even though it took me over a year to finally get around to watching this movie, it's a dynamic that I'm sure many people will be surprised by and happy about, and is probably a big reason why the movie is as popular as it is to begin with. Something that's definitely eye-catching in PROMARE, aside from the movie's art style itself, is the main cast of characters. They all have adorable designs, fun personalities, and not to mention fantastic English dub voices. But none of them aside from Gallo get any development at all, really. This movie is primarily about Gallo and Leo, so all these other characters get super left out. Aside from Ina, I guess, who gets featured the most but still barely develops as a character, the rest are solely there for support. It would have been hard to juggle so many characters in one story, But I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that I would have loved to see more of these characters because they all just seem so intricate. They kind of have like tropey concepts, but Trigger's just so good at creating goofy characters, I just wish we got to see more of them. Like, what about this guy with the glasses? I don't even know his name. Doesn't he like literally disappear from the entire movie at a point? He was like the most useless of the bunch, from what I remember. To me, Promare feels like it's the setup for a TV series. We get introduced to the world, we get an insanely climactic story, but we're left wanting to see a lot more. The plot ends conclusively, so I don't know what a Promare TV series would even involve, but I feel like one would make a lot of sense so we could spend more time with this great cast. Give every character more screen time or their own dedicated episodes, stuff like that. Heck, even the movie itself almost feels like it's an anime series turned into a 2-hour movie, considering how much it tries to jump around. If they were ever choosing between the two formats, they should have gone with making this a TV show, I think. Maybe that would have meant less of a budget or something, but Studio Trigger's animation always excels no matter the situation. I'm sure you can tell from these screenshots that the movie has an amazing original style. The colors are super vivid, the movements are fast and sometimes even super cartoony. And like I said, all the character designs are just great too. I particularly love that they use purple and green colors for the fire rather than red. In fact, red is more so used to represent the firefighters. That's a really cool visual dynamic. There's some occasional CGI animation thrown in for some robots and transformation shots. And it does look kind of unfitting, but you get used to it as it goes. It doesn't really matter. I do feel like I should warn that the color palette is crazy bright and possibly not the best thing if you're photosensitive or easily get eye strain. The movie soundtrack is amazing. Right after watching, I had all the lyrical songs stuck in my head. They all kick in at just the right times in the movie and help add to the great heart-pumping action. The collector's edition release of the movie comes with a soundtrack CD, if you're interested in that sort of thing. Also, I watched the English dub, and it rules. Many familiar voices to me, but many newer ones as well. They do great jobs and match their characters perfectly. I really love the voice of the true villain. He was amazing, it just got more and more ridiculously evil as the story progressed. It was both hilarious and actually pretty threatening. This is one of those movies that, whether or not you're an anime fan, you can easily love it because of its pleasant sci-fi absurdity and amazing art style. If you're a fan of Studio Trigger's other works like Gurren Lagann or Kill la Kill and have not watched this movie yet, you absolutely must see it at some point. You would easily love it. Even if you're simply a fan of animation, you'd get a lot out of this film because of its strong style. Promare is an extremely enjoyable ride. It leaves me wanting a lot more, and I think its plot and characters would have been better paced in a TV series format. But that doesn't take too much away from this movie's unique charm. Great style, great characters, great music, great voice cast, and fantastic cartoon absurdity. It's basically everything I could ever want. If you're looking for a fun and unique movie, or you're already a fan of Studio Trigger's other works or similar anime, definitely check this movie out if you haven't already. If you have seen it, let me know your thoughts about it in the comments. Also, like I said before, I will be making an in-depth review and unboxing of the Promare Collector's Edition Blu-ray set, so please stay tuned for that. Check the card in the top right to go check it out. Please leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to know when I post new videos. Thanks for watching, and super special thanks to my Patreon supporters. Support me on Patreon and you'll be able to submit video topics, see exclusive behind the scenes content, and help me keep this channel going. Also follow me on Twitter and TikTok for special updates.